I greet you all with love. Today, we're doing the Parsha VayYakhel PeKudey. It's the ending of Shemot and the beginning, in many ways, of Israel. It marks the formation and beginning of Israel. Starts off, and I'm combining these two together. It starts off with Moshe coming down from the third 40 days with the 10 speakings, and the first thing he does is call people together, and two things. He brings everybody together and creates a unity. And the unity is a very important teaching. It gives people the option to contribute to the Mishkan, which everybody does. But the whole idea is it is a collective energy, and that's a unifying factor in the creation of Am Israel. And it also allows people to give, their expression. And then everyone is invited, men and women, and we'll be clear about that, to participate in the construction. So not only do they donate, but they participate in the construction of the tabernacle, this holy space. There's a lot going on. This is a year after they've worshipped, some of them worshipped the golden calf, and it represents redemption. Building the tabernacle is a redemption. If they hadn't gotten involved and created the golden calf, there wouldn't even be a need for the tabernacle, because people would be inner-directed. Right? It is what it is, and that's what began to happen. It created, building the tabernacle, created a space for people to be personally redeemed, but also to anchor the spiritual energy, which apparently the people needed. Another piece to this is he was guided and to appoint 2 teenage boys to be the main builders. 12, some people say 13, but somewhere in there, 12 to 13-year-old boys. Now, when we think about teenagers today, and we think about school shootings and things, we're thinking, what? Teenage boys? Aren't they just some kind of out-of-control testosterone? Well, when you're connected to a greater teaching like the Torah, there's an alignment and positive amplification of that teenage testosterone. And when that's directed, as it was in this case, with Bezalel and Ohio, it is a tremendous creative force. It's a teaching. When you're aligned with higher cosmic teachings, when you're aligned with the Torah, when you're aligned with leadership, that teenage testosterone energy gets directed in incredibly powerful creative ways. When you aren't, when you don't have fathers in the home, and when the society has disconnected itself from the biblical teachings, from the Torah, you get chaos. And your identified patient, speaking psychologically, from a family therapy point of view, becomes the teenage boys, because their testosterone is not being properly directed, and it turns destructive. So what we see today is a reflection of an overall moral decay and separation from alignment with the higher cosmic teachings of the Torah. There are a few girls involved at this level. Mostly it's going to be the boys. So it gives us a reflection on what's really going on. Now, that being said, the whole collective Am Israel is involved in building. Everyone has a role. Now, one of the teachings is the attention to detail. When they complete it, Moses oversees it and says, wow, everybody follow the detail. Now, on a deeper way, attention to detail helps people bring God into every aspect of their actions. And that's a very, very, very powerful teaching in the bigger picture. So can we pay attention to detail? Can we activate the divine spark in all of creation? Which is what we're talking about. Anything we interact with, can we elevate that divine spark? We call that Yehudim. But there's another detail. And that detail is every person counts. Every person is a divine detail, a divine holy detail in the greater human collective. That's very, very different teaching that we see in today's world with the globalist thinking, which I'm not going to go into right now, except that the point is it's directly contrary. What we're talking about is every person counts, every person is a unique detail to offer their unique contribution to the greater holiness of the people. So these are the energies that initially Moses comes down to. Now, the other energy that's very important is he makes the point of how important Shabbat is. Now, we've done this now, this is like the fourth Parsha where Shabbat is emphasized. So it's obviously very important. But another point that's being made here is they talk about building the tabernacle. And Moses is clearly saying to the people, yes, the tabernacle is important, and yes, Shabbat is important. They're both important. And so one does not displace the other. So it's adding to the energy. Shabbat is holiness in time. The tabernacle is holiness in space. And we then begin to pull together the elements of time and space in creating holiness in all that we do. It gets a little better in that we, as participants in the overall creation of holiness, have a choice to make. That's the I am-ness. And so we have holiness in time, holiness in space, and we have an I am-ness. And that is the way everything becomes sanctified. When we begin to really understand the combination of those three elements, time, space, and I am-ness, which are the foundations of creation, we get a much better insight into the role we play. Because we do have choice. And that's that I am-ness. Now, in terms of the bigger picture, that means everything we touch, everything we interact with, we have the option to upgrade it into holiness in time, space, and holiness of I am-ness. The holiness of the being. The holiness of humanity. The holiness of every person. So it's a whole way of being with the world that is coming out of these teachings. And this is a way of life that was being explicitly prescribed for Am Israel. Now, we go a little further, now that we've got time, space, and I amness, and the power of us as human beings to create a sanctification of everything we touch, from food to our everyday activities, the details of our everyday activities, it becomes very powerful, because we become empowered to activate that spark of God in everything, in all creation. Wow. So it's not just the potential empowerment, it's more of a directive in the empowerment. Now this takes us to Shabbat. As I mentioned in 3 previous Parshas, let's maybe go into it a little bit more depth. So, a way of thinking about Shabbat, it's a day of consciousness. It's a day where spiritual consciousness is amplified. Well, what does that mean? Well, another level of understanding this is that we live in 2 worlds simultaneously. In the PeKudey, we talk about that the word tabernacle is mentioned twice in sequence. And it applies to the fact that we have an earthly realm and we have a heavenly realm. And the earthly realm is a reflection of the heavenly realm. And the idea and the teaching in this tradition, this Torah tradition, is we live in both worlds simultaneously. Where I'm going with it, more specifically, is we have 5 levels of soul. And in the upper realms is where the higher levels of soul are. And on the physical level, we have the lower levels of soul. However, as we evolve, as we open up spiritually, as we live in the idea of creating the sacredness and creating the inner mishkan, the experience of God within, we begin to draw down the higher levels of soul into our earthly plane. And we begin to really integrate all the levels of soul in our walk on this plane. That's really, really exciting. When you see the bigger picture, that through our actions that I've been describing, we literally begin to pull those levels of the soul, our soul, that are in the higher planes, into us in the lower planes. So our potential as spiritual beings increases with this way of life. That's one level of that we're living in the different worlds. Our actions, according to the Torah, on this physical plane impact the heavenly world, the heavenly tabernacle. And the energies of the heavenly tabernacle impact our life on this plane. So it really goes both ways. But since we're mostly consciously here now, the focus is on our action that raises the energy that way. And we can think about it actually as 2 trees of life. One is planted with the roots in the earth going to the heavens. And then a reverse tree of life where the roots are in the heavens and the branches and fruits are coming down onto our earthly plane. So the idea of the 2 tabernacles is a statement that we truly are living in both worlds at once. We call it the present world and the world to come. But the world to come already is here. It's not coming, it's here. So it's a very important teaching that's coming through in these Parshas about the 2 tabernacles. it gets pretty amazing when you really think that you're walking in both worlds at once, and what you're doing here is affecting there, and what's happening there is affecting here. It's like, whoa, makes you wobble a little bit. With God intoxication. What's the wobble? God intoxication. So, that's a part of Shabbat. Shabbat, as I implied earlier, is holiness in time. And it's a day of enlightenment. It's a day where we're not doing the 39 types of work. Now those 39 types of work are what got clear, because they're the 39 types of work that were necessary for the tabernacle. And they weren't allowed to work on the tabernacle on Shabbat. That's it, work stops, everything goes. And it's the same for Shabbat. We don't do the 39 types of work. We don't use fire. There are many really exciting things that happen. What's the purpose? Purpose is to create a quiet mind so we can transcend mind. That's the purpose. The purpose is so we can create a day of expanded holiness in consciousness, holiness in action. It's very profound because it's a day of the refreshment of our soul and really the refreshment of our spiritual consciousness. So this is why Moses is saying, no, you can build your temple, we're building a tabernacle, but we're not skipping Shabbat. We are having Shabbat, and we're going to expand Shabbat. We're going to bring even more soul energy in because we're using the energy of the tabernacle to amplify the overall spiritual energy. So those are some of the subtleties of why Moses is saying, no. Just because you have tabernacle, you have the responsibility and the gift of Shabbat. So we will truly, truly, truly honor it. Another level of this discussion with beyond Shabbat and beyond the two worlds is, again, the attention to detail. And the message, the deeper message, is that when we start seeing God in the details, we expand our consciousness and we expand our connection with the divine. So every act becomes an act of holiness. Now, what's the downside of that? Well, if we only focus on the mitzvah, we limit ourselves and really just get the trees of the forest. So the other aspect of that is the overview of all the spiritual teachings. If we lose that framework and we're only doing the mitzvah, the details, we don't get the whole picture. And if we're only doing the spiritual philosophy and teachings and we're not doing the details, we're also incomplete. So the message that's coming through here very strongly is both are needed for the evolution of consciousness. Doing the details without consciousness, as the Baal Shem Tov actually said, is they're like birds with broken wings. It doesn't fly to the heavens. So the mitzvah need to be done with consciousness and need to be done with as a holy act consciously, but also need to be done as part of an overall understanding of spiritual life. So we're working in both levels, Kakal and Frat. Those are the two levels in English. So the details and the big picture need to be integrated together. So that's another teaching about the details. The Pekudey and also Shemot ends with the word of accounting. And what is the accounting? Well, Moses has to do accounting for everything he put in to the tabernacle. That's a more superficial level of accounting. But the teaching of accounting has to do with how we're living our lives. Are we taking responsibility? This is a part, as I mentioned before, where everyone has a holy gift to give. Everyone is a part of the greater whole. And the accounting at that level is, have I given my gift? It's a pretty important thing. There's a story, Reb Zusha, very, very deep person in the lineage of the Baal Shem Tov. And he was really having a bad day. He was, in the sense that he was in grief. And his brother comes in and says, "What's the problem?" And he says, "Well, I started thinking about things, and when we die, the angels ask us, the pearly gate, they ask us, okay? And I don't mind if I wasn't like Moshe, and I don't mind if I wasn't like Abraham. But when the question came, were you like Zusha? It freaked me out." He didn't say that. But it really upset me because I was very concerned that I haven't fulfilled my role as Zusha on the planet. That's an accounting thing. And so it's an acknowledgement of our life accounting when we leave this body, but we're taking accounting to another level, which is in the everyday life. Do we take an accounting at the end of the day? Do we take accounting at the end of the year? Do we do an accounting as we go through the different life transitions, which is a very classical time in the biblical way to look at it as that accounting. So Moses is going through a few levels of accounting, but the counting is in plural. Okay, so we are talking about all those levels of accounting that we bring together in our life. Have we done our sacred design? It's very clear in this biblical, in the Torah tradition, that everyone has a sacred design. They have the gift to give. Have we done that? We have our gift to give. Are we doing it? And on the different levels, are we doing it? And have we finished this mission, but no, at another phase of life, we have another mission to do. These are really, really important questions, and that's so interesting that Shemot is ending on a discussion of accounting. What have you done, and where are you going? And we are responsible. So as spiritual people, actually as anyone, we are accountable for our actions. We can take it in that way too, because we're accountable for our speech, our word, our thought, and our actions in every moment. That's level one. But we also are accountable for, we all have a mission that we're given. And we're also, that's an individual mission, but also a mission is part of the greater whole. So this whole accounting is pretty deep. Moshe has to not only account for building the details of the tabernacle, but for this bigger picture in his life. So he goes through that. So we're ending Shemot, and the key in Shemot is we've moved now from slavery. Shemot means names. You don't have a name as a slave. Into names. We have a face, We have the face of God, and we are accountable. We received the Torah at Sinai, a one-time experience of the divine. Now then we build the tabernacle, so we're having a regular experience of the divine, because the tabernacle is a way of keeping the frequency on a regular basis. We have prophecy of from the tabernacle of the two temples to be built, and ultimately a third temple, with the two temples. And with the tabernacle and the temples, it's a way of grounding the energy to support everybody in their spiritual life. And ultimately, given the Torah, we're giving the energetic support of the whole picture. Now I'm going to end with a metaphor of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle in our own life. So in the center is the Holy of Holies. For us human beings, that's the light of God within us. Are we able to enter that holy space within ourselves, the self beyond time and space? And on top of it is the cherubim, which is the play of our inner male and female, and really outer male and female in our lives, where the voice of God comes through in the ark. Are we able to place ourselves in that place to be able to communicate with the divine? Now, the ark itself has gold on the inside and gold on the outside. Do we have gold on the inside of ourselves as well as gold on the outside of our actions? That's a start. Okay. Then we have the curtains. And these are the veil. And are we able to part the curtains so we can be in touch with that inner truth of who we are? And in that struggle, I'm going to introduce a Hebrew term. It's called berur. And berur means the ability to distinguish between the temporal and cosmic reality in our everyday life. Have we developed that our berur, so we have the inner life, and then we go through the curtains into the outer world? What's going on in the outer world? Well, on the north, we have the table, and we have the 12 hollows. What are the 12 hollows? It's our astrology, it's our destiny. And the path is to eat the hollows. Why do we eat the hollows? Not just because we're hungry, okay? It's because symbolically we're going beyond our astrology. We're able to transcend that. And that's a very, very important teaching. Starting back for Abraham and Sarah. Hey, Abraham was a great astrologer, and he says, no, we're not supposed to have kids. Well, they went beyond their astrology. And then, opposite in the south is the menorah, which is the light of God that gets lit every day that we share with all creation. And then we go outside of that into the courtyard where they're doing the sacrifices, and we have the opportunity to evolve as we make our inner sacrifices to let go of our ego, the animal of the ego, for God. And at the same time, the whole tabernacle has boundaries. And those boundaries help us work with our consciousness so that we don't get out of balance. So that's the outer walls of the tabernacle. So we learn to live within our boundaries so we can be the greatest expression of the divine that we can be. So we have the tabernacle, but we have the inner tabernacle that I'm talking about, which is a very profound teaching as now we're moving out of Shemot, where we've received these teachings, where Am Israel has become one, and now we're ready to move out into the world, continuing to walk through the desert. May everyone be blessed that we are able to build that tabernacle within ourselves and live the understanding of what it means, that we may be truly a light to the nations, a light to each other, in invoking and sanctifying all our actions.